Hi, I'm Kevin. This is a procedural rotary countdown timer that I made in Cavalry, and I'm going to show you how I did it. So let's first start with getting a background shape. And I have my color palette already ready, so I'll just select blue. And we're going to add a value array, which we'll use as a way to control everything at the end. So we'll call that control. We'll add a few more indices. We'll rename them time, font size, and padding. We'll set the time to 10, font size to 670, and padding to 1.2. And let's add a text shape, and we'll center align everything. I'll set the font. I used Poppins, which is a Google font if you're unfamiliar with it. And we'll set it to extra bold for the weight. I'll set it to this color. And then we want to go to generator, value. We'll parent that under text shape. This is what's going to allow us to procedurally create the list of numbers for the countdown. We'll set precision to 0, get rid of decimal places, and padding to 2 to have it only two places. And then we'll take the text shape and we'll select control. And we're going to take the font size from control and plug it into the font size and the text shape, so that way it's driven by our value here. We'll take the text shape, put that in a duplicator. Let's go to advance. We'll select the string generator, take the index context, and we'll plug that into number. So that way, as the count increases on the duplicator, the numbers increase, and we get the list of numbers procedurally generated. So we no longer need to do anything with string generator, so I'm going to just hide that. And in the duplicator, let's set the distribution to circle. And let's go select control and duplicator. We want time here to drive the count. And we need this count to be one more than what we type in for the time and control. The reason being, since we're using the index, indexes start counting from 0. So right now, if this was to be a little bit more legible, you would see numbers 0 through 9. So let's right click count, add expression, and put value plus 1. So we want the number on the right to be centered in the screen. So just take radius and put that into the X value on pivot. So that will then now be automatically handled. So let's now set up the logic for the radius. We'll go to right click, add math/script, JS math. I'm going to rename that radius math, and I'll group it, and I'll just put math for the title of that, the name. Drag that down. For radius math, we want 3 indices, so hit add twice. We'll rename it padding, font size, and count. Let's put the formula in before we start attaching values. So we want parenthesis n0 times n1 times n2 in parenthesis divided by parenthesis 2 times math capital M dot pi all caps in parenthesis. So let's first grab the duplicator and the radius math, and we'll take the count and drive that into count. And then we'll take the text shape and radius math, and we'll take the font size into font size. And then from control, we'll take padding and plug that into padding in radius math. So now we have it nicely spaced and legible. So let's set the comp settings so we can procedurally control the duration of a comp. Let's pop this out into another window because that'll be useful in a second. We'll drive the playback range with the frame range, so just drag the end from frame range onto the end on playback range. And then we'll right click frame range, excuse me, and we'll add a JS math. I'm gonna drop that into math, but I'll rename it comp duration. And let's add another indice. We'll rename this to count. And this last one to frame rate. So while we have this window open, let's attach frame rate to there. And now we can close it. And then for count, we want to grab the duplicator again and drag that there. Now connecting the count with the increased number from the duplicator will cause this to loop. If you don't want it to loop, instead of grabbing count from duplicator, grab time from control and plug it into that value instead. Now simply just replace the formula with n0 times n1. Now you have the timeline automatically adjusting based on how many seconds you want to do the countdown. The only thing that's not procedural, unfortunately, is the layer durations. So you just have to make sure to go in here and grab the solid color layers and drag them out. All right, so let's go in the duplicator and start getting this moving. We'll use travel and we'll add a frame behavior to that. I'll parent it to the duplicator. Change the interpolation mode to seconds. And I know I want it to be eased so that there's a little bit of a pause as it shifts. And to get it to look like I had it in the example, enable snapping. Grab this handle, move it to this line, and we'll take the bottom, move it out this way. And the value we want to drive by another formula, so another JS math. Tuck that under there. Or rename this to travel math. Or rename that to count. And then we'll delete the formula and replace it with 100 divided by n0. And we'll select the duplicator and drive the count down into there. So now if we play, we should see it going in the same position, one number at a time. So now we have it counting. But currently it's counting up and it's starting an odd spot. If you want it as a count up timer, just set the start angle to 90. Now you have it counting up from 0. But we want it to count down, so let's hit flip. But we still have a problem because it starts at 0 instead of at 10. So we'll add some math to start angle with another JS math. So let's change this to say count so we know what we're plugging in here, and we'll select the duplicator, grab the count from the duplicator into there. And then for the formula, fix that. Want parenthesis negative 360 divided by n0 and parenthesis plus 90. Now we have a procedural countdown timer. And you can see now we can change this, say, to 30 seconds. And you see the comp duration has changed. And it'll loop back 30. So hope that's helpful. I'd love to see if you make anything with it. You're welcome to tag me on Instagram. It's Motion by Kevin.